And we are live. Hi, everyone. Savante here, Lainey Savante Wilkin. Welcome to the Nourish Your Soul show, our weekly show. Although we've taken a little bit of time off when we had our global show last week. So I welcome you. Thank you for being here. I'm so thrilled and excited for you to meet Kieron Morgan tonight. And when I put out the news blast, hey Denise, when I put out the news blast that we are doing a show about Pendragon Reiki, and so many people wrote to me and said, "What is that?" And dragons. I have to say, Kieron, and I'll give them a little bit more of an introduction of you in a minute, but it seems like everywhere I've gone today, there have been dragons. My wonderful Patty, who's our yoga teacher, has a little dragon on her dashboard of her car. And then the guest who's in town shows me that she got this job because she painted a mural at a school and it was of a dragon. I just thought, oh, the universe is just so awakening to this. So without further ado, I am so pleased to introduce you to Kieron Morgan. He is a wonderful teacher and alchemist. We have a lot to talk about tonight. Yes, there is a correlation to food and dragons. We'll talk about that. But we are both, let me just put that here, co-authors of the Energy Healers Oracle by, 20 of us, but our lead author and leader of the pack is Angela Aurora Medway Smith. And she has really brought together a soul family from all four corners of the earth. And so we've had a chance to get to know each other on other calls and networking events and book launches. So welcome, Kieron. It's midnight, after midnight. Thank you for being here and sharing your gifts with us tonight. You are all in for a huge treat. I can tell you that.
That's
Say
very kind
hello.
of you. That's very kind of you. Thanks for the opportunity. It's really cool to be able to speak to a probably new audience, and I'll do my best to keep my energy up and high. We'll ask the dragons for some help and support because it's late here, and I'm an old man, so I go to bed at 9:30 if I'm lucky with a mug of Ovaltine and a biscuit and fall
Oh
asleep.
my goodness, Ovaltine. That reminds me of my childhood. I love Ovaltine. But I too, as much what I feel like I'm on a 24-hour cycle because I may go to bed at 9, but Spirit has me up at 2 or 3 writing, downloading, there's always something and then I go back. So there's never really like up all day and then you go to sleep through the night. I just kind of rotate. I don't know, is that for you as well, or you kind of once you're in bed, you're in bed?
No, my guide and sort of soul family, if you like, energetic family, take the opportunity when I get into that space half between half awake and asleep to, like you say, download a shed load of information or get me to do energy work. I'm an advocate for the energy of the violet flame, which is about transformation and change and alchemy and expansion, and which is one of those things which is very prevalent at the moment
Yes.
and very much needed. So I can go to bed at 10 o'clock at night with the intention of getting a nice good round 8 hours, and 3 o'clock in the morning I'll still be pumping the energy out to try and help expand humanity's consciousness, or be trying to cleanse spaces around the globe and all these types of things. So it makes it quite a challenge, but there's lots of us doing those types of things. So
Yeah.
it's part of the job, part of what we signed up for when we came down, and to get on with it.
So true. I think some of us are all finding each other and realizing, yeah, we really did sign up for some big projects, and they're starting to align and come forward and download and manifest. And you did mention the violet flame, and we'll touch on that a little bit. And then I want to kind of go back and talk about sort of your origins of dragons and how it's brought you to write this incredible chapter, which I found so many similarities. I don't know, Denise, I know you have the book. I don't know if you've read his chapter yet, but oh my goodness. But the Violet Flame was mentioned here too. You're right, a new community here in the States. And we have people who listen from all over, mostly the States. When Angela Aurora Medway Smith was here last month, and then I was trained in it immediately was in resonance and can't wait to eventually hold my own courses. But you're sort of kind of like in, I feel like part of the forefathers. You've been around it from when it's really come in or inception, and you're in that area. But maybe just give a quick little background of what it is, because now we've been mentioning a lot on this show, and I would love for you to just maybe give a little bit of insight, and then we'll move into the dragon energy and everything we're here to talk about with Pendragon Reiki.
Sure, sure. I'd be happy to. Yeah. So as I said, the energy of the violet flame is about transformation and change. It's the energy of alchemy. It brings about conscious change and movement. It's the energy of the seventh ray. So it's usually represented by a seven-pointed star. There are seven advocates of it, represented by each one of the points of the star. And the way I see it is different colors of purple or violet or magenta, depending. So some of them are very pale, very pure. Lady Portia, for example, is represented by one, and her energy is purple but with silver. Saint Germain's is purple but with gold. Archangel Samael is a really deep damson, really, really deep, so dark it's almost black. Then you have Archangel Zadkiel, which is a pure sort of violet light. Zaphael's, which is soft and gentle. Jeremiel's is lighter. He's the angel of the last breath, then releasing, letting go. And Satchel, the angel of the violet robe, and her color is also a feeling, so it's nurturing. So when you invoke her energy, it's about being supported and loved in times of vulnerability. So all of these different energies come together. We can work with them as individuals. There's rescue flames as well, which help us with transitional times. It's great for cleansing. It's great for clearing spaces. It's great for accelerating our path. There's a physical violet flame chakra, which is came to light 10 years ago on Leith Hill in Surrey, where I grew up on the hill. So we moved there when I was 5 years old. I spent 20 years living there. Always came back, always went to the top of the hill when I'd had a good day and screamed and danced. And when I'd had a bad day, I screamed and cried. And but when the chakra itself opened up, it was a real moment for me, because real change for me, and it gave me a purpose of being the guardian of this place and that energy. So I've been flying the flag for that for the last 10 years. And the energy activation that I've got a little bit of an energy hangover from was on Friday, which was the 7th of July, which is a 7/7 day, and then it was 2023, which is a 7 as well.
Heavy.
And so the energy work there was really interesting. And there was other people doing group stuff. Angela was doing something on the 6th, and Ed Courtney did stuff in the evening as well. So we had lots of people, but it was about energizing the energy of violet flame in the chakras around the earth.
Wow.
So the earth chakras, and because for us and our energy systems, the violet flame can be in each of our chakras to facilitate that transformation and change. So
let me just jump in for 1 second. When we were talking off air, we were talking about a lot of density. I was saying there's a lot of density today. A lot of us know our beloved Heather Phillips is in transition, and I just want to touch on that this isn't just personally here. There's a collective density and an energy of rootment and clearing. But I know, because we're going to get to, and you're all going to be gifted towards the end of this show with an incredible meditation. I've been around a lot of people who've done meditations, but you're in for a treat. But maybe touch on that, because if anyone else is feeling some heaviness or some sadness or, God, grief, whatever it is going on, you're not alone. I think this is what you're saying is collective going on the planet with the transition.
yeah, absolutely. It's part of the broader spectrum is our shift between the 3D world and the 5D world, moving to a heart space, moving to compassion and understanding, and grace and flow. But to get to that point, as a collective, we have to dredge up all of the low vibration stuff, all of the fear and jealousy and sadness. And so when we go through these energetic points, it's an opportunity for those things to come up. It's a little bit like a volcano, these things sort of come up and they spew out into the atmosphere,
Yeah.
and we have that ash sort of rains down on us, and we all feel that energy, whether we are intensely connected to it, like I have been for this one, or with others where we're not maybe so aware, or people just generally not aware. But that level of collective consciousness, that that hive mind feels the sadness and the fear, and there's also loads of us light workers that then process that. This comes
Mm,
up and we have
yeah.
to process it, and we process it through our experiences, or we process it through things that happen to us. um, and it's a very difficult thing to really be able to tune in, fine tune in, and to say, well, is this grief and sadness actually mine, or is it
Oh,
collective,
yes.
the collective consciousness? um,
And there's levels of that.
yeah,
When I share with people, if your food feels off in a restaurant, think about the frequencies of maybe the chef. If you suddenly don't, or simple, if you walk into a room and suddenly you're upset or sad or mad. But then there's people who really hold big mantles on this planet, have chosen, we've signed up for it, and we feel the weight of the world. It's not just a cliche, but we really feel the weight of the world, and it is like a tsunami or a volcano. So yeah, there's levels of this intensity, from into like, wow, I don't know, suddenly I'm sad, to like, oh my god, it's like the world's imploding. So
mm,
yes, I'm so grateful you're sharing this, because I want people to not feel alone, including myself, because it's been heavy.
yeah. And there's times, I mean, I spoke in my chapter in the book where there's times when I've been so overwhelmed by this, I've been suicidal, I've tried to dull the pain with self-medicating with all kinds of
Sure.
stuff, and certain amount of that has been mine, but also being sensitive a lot more than I realized was this collective consciousness. And when I started on my path about 20, nearly 25 years ago now, I would go through big shifts, and there were times when I would have a good day. I would be fine, and there's nothing going on, and then I would sit, and tears would just pour out of me for
Oh,
hour upon hour upon hour, and I would be sitting there sometimes going, I don't know where this is coming from, because I feel all right, but my body is just pouring this emotion out of me. And it wasn't till I asked Ed about it when I was his apprentice, what's all this about? He said, well, you're grieving for the collective consciousness. You're processing this energy on behalf of Mother Earth, because she's starting that process of rising to a higher vibrational level. So she's got a lot of energy to release, and the collective consciousness holds on to that. And you've been charged as being one of those sort of reverse lightning rods, if you like, being with feet planted in the ground and sending this stuff out to be transmitted. And it is like having the weight of the world on your shoulders. But
mhm.
when you understand, when people understand, when we understand that it's not necessarily my stuff that I'm doing, but I'm doing it for somebody else, or doing it for the collective, then it's something that we can take on and take solace from. We have a mental health crisis globally at the moment, but that's not necessarily because we have a mental health crisis. What we have is new generations of people coming through who are so much more turned on, switched on. They are upgraded. I'm a Windows 95 type of guy, and these are with these people are Windows 10, Windows 11, and half of their systems are already online and going, but they have they haven't read the manuals.
So, I mean, that is just, I mean, I don't know who else is listening to this, but let us know you're here. If you're nodding like I am, that is true. Some of them are just coming in so switched on. I was just talking to Caroline Mary just about light language, and just it feels like the younger generation, they just come in and it's so poetically common to speak that light language, wherein us older folks are not really. We have other gifts, but I don't think I'm seeing that as much. So there's just a lot going on, and I welcome the gifts, but you're right, there's a lot of integration, there's a lot of things going on. There was something else I was just going to tell you, about what you said in your book, and your chapter was so great. I was nodding my head and so feeling you, just also about, because my husband, who is a great music producer, but he really is a sonic alchemist, and he is in the lineage of Merlin. We do call him Merlin. And then when I just read that, Merlin was in part of your story, a major part of the story, I was like, well, that makes sense. It just, like, I could really just feel you and understand you just by one chapter of like what you said. And yes, we are going to get to dragons, but all of this all makes sense and comes together. But the Merlin piece I felt was very special because that is, that hits home special.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because when I put the chapter forward and then it had a bit of an edit, and the feedback I got was, why do you refer to Merlin as the Merlin? Why do you don't just call him Merlin? Because there was one Merlin the magician. Well, my understanding is that the Merlin is a title, so people that hold a connection to the energy of magic, of creation, of magic through it can be music or sound or song or thought or whatever, changing the world around us. Magic is just changing our reality through intent, and if that intent is sound or song and music or film or visuals or images or emotions, then it's all about changing things. So there are Merlins that exist amongst us now every day, and they're part of that lineage. Now the Druid Emrys from the 8th century in the UK, he embodied that energy so strongly that the idea of the Merlin and him were so intertwined that he became Merlin the magician. And I believe a similar thing happened with the Buddha and with
Mhm.
Jesus. Jesus was for me
Christ consciousness versus Christ the
yeah,
person, right?
exactly. So Jesus and the Christ, and they came together so intertwined that you couldn't tell either one apart. Now I am an aspect of the Merlin, but I'm not that enlightened. If I was, then I would definitely scooch off, and if I've reached my peak, then I would be off doing other things. But we are creators and changers of the world, and I'm very proud to have that lineage and very grateful. Not so grateful necessarily when I first started, when he would lean over my shoulder and tell me off quite loudly for not trusting in myself or walking my talk, and he would energetically slap me around the back of the head with his staff, call me a stupid boy. But
You all
we've
have
moved
to
on from
read
that
his
now.
chapter. Well, that was okay. So now we're segueing over to that. Well, let me tell you a quick story and then we're going to get into yours. So I have been Savante. That's been my spiritual name since 2009. Of course, many people call me Lainey, but Savante is who I am. But it was the same thing. I was driving my car. I was just getting on the freeway. But you don't call them freeways. You call them expressways, or what do you call
Motorways.
them? Metroways. Um, and I heard as if there was somebody right in the car. You are Savante, like as clear as day. And I'm reading your book, and I'm like, mm-hmm. And then it wasn't until I got home that I thought, I wonder if that even actually means anything. And sure enough, it did. And it means worship in Sanskrit. And then it's kind of a derivative of a savant, wisdom teacher, and seva. But literally, it was like in the car driving, and I just look over, like that was if, like, the voice of God literally was there. So I read your book. I'm like, so is that how it all works for us in the car when we're driving?
I think it seems to be, and I think it's anywhere where our conscious mind is busy doing something
Yeah.
and our unconscious can flow through. So I know that Gandhi, when he used to try and work out what he was going to say or search for inspiration in his speeches, would spin thread. So he would just do a very everyday job and do something. So your conscious mind is doing something. So the inspiration comes when your conscious mind is just doing something every day.
Mm.
I also believe it's one of the reasons why Einstein was quite happy being a postman, because his conscious mind is just doing something, and then your unconscious has the opportunity to just be free and to unlock. In my case with that, as I say in the book, I was really tired. I've been working ridiculously long hours getting a theatre production ready, and you know what it's like. You do it 90, 100 hours easy in a
Oh,
week.
yes. Yes.
And I was driving back, and I was thinking about the show and everything's gone on. And I was driving on automatic pilot, and as I said, I got to this the traffic lights and this voice, and I'm more clairsentient than I am clairvoyant.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
I don't necessarily hear loud noises very often. I either have to really concentrate or really not concentrate for them to happen. But then I was just shouted at really loudly. Write this
Yeah.
down, get on with it, and then you know it all came through for over the next few weeks after. But it was a very strange sensation.
So that's the perfect segue to move into dragons. And like I said, for those of you just tuning in earlier in the show, I was talking about that I knew the show was happening and I was just so delighted, although we are having this energetic hangover from the last several days of events. But having you on the show, I just thought was so poignant. And suddenly dragons have been everywhere. And honestly, my dog, I don't know how, I have a puppy that just chews everything. And suddenly I come home and I never know. I think I have everything put away. And I came home the other day and all the Game of Thrones DVDs were out and the boxes were chewed, but the DVDs haven't. And I just thought they're the dragons again. And so the energy has been mounting. And I love that people are interested in this topic because sometimes people go into dragons and just thinks like we're witches and we're kind of crazy people. And then the people who really understands the pure essence of higher vibrational frequencies understand the beauty. And reading your chapter gave me a whole nother level of understanding that dragons can relate to foods and the elements. So before we even get into sort of that whole process of what you shared in the book and your modality, Pendragon Reiki, maybe you just share a little bit about your prior connection to dragons, because everyone has a connection to something, but clearly that's yours.
Mine comes from birth. My mum's English, my dad's Welsh, and
Mhm.
so the Welsh flag has a great big red dragon on it. Um,
Yeah.
so he was a very proud Welshman. He was a rugby player, which is the national sport, and was on the borderline of the rugby team in the 60s and 70s. So when I was a kid, when he was really impassioned, he was impassioned watching rugby, and obviously the dragons and the flags and everything. He was also a big reader of science fiction and science fantasy books, and I was a very strange kid. I was going to say I was a savant as a kid, which would be ironic me saying that. But
No
I was
surprise.
I was a huge absorber of information. I could see the fairy folk and I could see spirit. He got shot down in my teens, but when I was a sort of preteen, that's where it was, and I read everything that there was. You know, kids' books was just didn't mean anything to me because which is ridiculous. I were just an avid absorber of information. And apparently, I said to my dad when I was 5 or 6 one day, it was raining. I couldn't go out and play outside, and we lived in a big house in a forest. My dad was a housemaster in a school, and I said, "I'm bored," and he said, "Well, read a book." I said, "Well, I've read all my books." He said, "Well, read one of mine. Go and find one of mine." He had this huge bookcase up in the living room upstairs with 200 or 300 books on it. And I grabbed the first one I grabbed was The Hobbit because it had a picture of a dragon on the front. And I took it downstairs and I held it up and I went, "Can I read this one?" And apparently he just laughed. I went, "Yeah, we give it a go, try it out." So I'm 6 years old reading The Hobbit, and I gave it back to him a week later and said, "That was really good." And he said, you haven't read that. You can't have read that." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And I told him the story, and he'd say, "Oh well, okay, well you obviously have." And then I just worked my way through all the books that I could find. Um, but the thing that really made me sad and sort of really hit me was the fact that in most of the books, the dragons are the villains. Smaug
Yeah.
is a money grabbing, gold hoarding grumpy sod.
Dragon
Um,
slayers and yeah.
yeah, and most of the books I read were, yeah, like you say, dragon slayers. There was a series of books called The Dragon Riders of Pern, which was a
Mhm.
sort of fantastical world where the dragons and humans lived together, and they worked together and they flew together, and that
It's like
was also,
Avatar, in
it's
a
very
way.
much like Avatar, yeah, but like 40 years before, 50,
Yeah.
probably the book itself was probably 50 years before, but the idea. And when I saw Avatar and they jumped onto those dragony things and flew around, I had this flashback to that, because I know that I believe that in the time when dragons and all the sort of fantastical creatures inhabited Earth with us, because I believe that this happened before an enchantment where they took themselves out of the consciousness of mankind, that there were those of us that lived and worked with the fairy folk. I just finished watching Carnival Row, the second
Hmm.
season of that, and a time where the pucks and the picks and humans lived together. All right, in Carnival Row they didn't get on very well, but I believe that we used to.
But commune together as one.
Yeah, and there were people that rode dragons, and there were elementals that rode dragons, and we worked together with them to help energize the ley lines and keep energy going and moving and keep this planet that we're on working in the way that it should have worked.
Yeah.
Um, but in the books, as I say, dragons were vilified, and they were villains, and they were angry. And another big shift for me was when I watched the Neverending Story,
Oh, yes.
and Falcor the Luck Dragon, and I'd never seen a dragon look like an Eastern dragon. In
Hmm.
Eastern philosophy, dragons are long, serpentine. They don't have the big wings. They don't tend to be grumpy. Um, they tend to be associated with luck and happiness and those types of fortunes.
Well,
And
in
it's
Asian
only,
cultures, come on. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. And I believe that part of that is the demonization of the of dragons as a symbol that represent the earth and the divine mother. When we moved from a sort of pre-Christian society in that transition into the Christian world, because they couldn't destroy the symbols that we had of the old ways and the witches, and they twisted them into things that which were seen as negative. Spin doctoring is something that we associate with our modern politicians, but spin doctoring has been around as long as there have been stories to tell. So I think that they literally demonized dragons. They turned them into these big winged creatures which were nasty and angry and fire breathing, and but I think there was that transition from the old ways into the more organized religions. So it's been a revelation when my spiritual path opened up. Uh, I was referred to as Little Red Dragon. I had a big attunement with Ed, and um, he told me about the spirit of being connected with the spirit of the Merlin, and he called me Little Red Dragon. The Merlin was flying through Ed as a channel. Now, nobody knew at all that I had a little red dragon, which my mum had given me because she knew that I was going through this initiation, and I had it pinned on the inside of my trousers. It was impossible for anyone to see that. There is no earthly way. And I know that they referred to me as Little Red Dragon, one, because the Little Red Dragon is connected with the Red Dragon from the Welsh story, and connected with my dad who passed, but also to show me that they could see what I was doing when nobody else could actually physically see it.
Wow. Well, that I you can't help but deny you can't deny the presence of everything working in perfect order when you have a story like that. I mean, uh, we hear them all the time, but to even just say that. And by the way, he was mentioning his spiritual teacher just for clarity on, when he was getting the attunement. And we think the world of Edwin because he's the one who initially channeled the Violet Flame Awakening and chakra. Um, modality, healing, practice. I don't. What would you call it exactly? It's all of those things. So I'm not even going to put it into one word. And I was so thrilled. This is a quick segue, but my activation, and I've been an intuitive channel my entire life. It came from the generations, but it really wasn't actually same thing the year I got my name in 2009. But I was at the base of Tikal, which are the pyramids in Guatemala, and I was doing a Mayan ceremony, and I was asked by the oldest living Mayan shaman to participate. And at that moment, um, I did, and then that night I got very, very sick. And anyways, that night Archangel Zadkiel came to me and said, "Now it begins."
Mm.
And that's really when things kind of opened up. So to see Archangel Zadkiel as part of this tribe of spiritual leaders in the Violet Flame means a lot. Marnie, who is here with us, she wrote, "I've been seeing dragons since I heard Kieran was going to be on the show." Yeah, the beautiful kind, I'm sure. So why don't we move into just a little bit, because I want to have time for the meditation. And then you're going to just be so happy to have this meditation, everyone who's here and maybe who listens to this later. I know a lot of you watch this later, but maybe let's just talk about how it moved into becoming Pendragon Reiki.
Sure. So, as I said, the Merlin sort of shouted at me in the car and told me to write something down. And what he told me to write down was a symbol. It's a triangle with a spiral that goes to the center and 3 lines that go to the middle of it. Uh, and I was like, "Oh, you silly old sod, just leave me alone. I'm tired. I just want to go home. Leave me alone." And he just kept slamming this thing into my third eye. Write this down, write this down, write this down. I was like, okay, all right. So I wrote it down. I drew it on a piece of the only thing I could find in the car was a little car park ticket. So and a pen, and I just drew it down, and I forgot about it for a few days. Finished the show, went back, and I said in meditation, I was like, okay, so what's all this about? And over the next week or so, it revealed itself to be a sort of 2D representation of a 3D object, which is an energetic Merkaba, which is connected to different elemental dragon energies.
Mm.
So what we do when we call, and he gave me this poem as well, which calls to the different elemental dragons. So when I was doing this for the first time, the triangle drew itself around me, spiraled into the center. It expanded up and down, created this star tetrahedron, the Merkaba, and then there were dragons at all the different points.
Wow.
Which creates an incredible safe space, a protected space to rest in.
Yeah.
And being really energetically sensitive, I found probably for the first time that I could sit in this space and I could breathe and I could not hear and not feel the agony of, and like you said about having the weight of the world on your shoulders, and I could actually just relax a little bit. It was like being in one of those sensory deprivation tanks.
Oh yes, I did a
You
I
know?
did a float that we call them float spas here. I just did that 2 weeks ago. Just no sound, just floated.
Yeah, but this is like an emotional float
Mm.
spa.
Well,
So,
who sign me up? And everybody here, I'm sure, wants
and
to
it's
be in that space.
yeah, and as I've said, I've had times in my life where I felt suicidal. I've felt times like I couldn't cope, like I tried to drown the world out and
Same.
drown all of that stuff in various ways, and I got really emotional about the fact that I was just sitting in my with my little flat, sharing with my best mate at the time, Mark, and he was off at work, and I just had an hour in this space. And at the end of it, he came back from work and he went, "What's up with you?" And I was like, I've I found some calm, and it was the first time that I'd found some calm, a space where I could breathe
Oh,
and just
beautiful.
hear my thoughts and not hear and not feel. And it's only until you do that you realize just how sensitive you are. Like I remember in Daredevil, the film, the old one, not the new reboot, where one of the characters, a Daredevil himself, because he hears everything and it's really overwhelming. He gets into that float spa, like you said, and sleeps, and it's the first time everything gets drowned out. And it was such a peaceful space. Um, and then after that, it became a space where okay, so I've got this space, and I want to share that idea with people about how it creates a peaceful environment. But also we can grab onto that energy, that Merkaba, and project it into the chakra system of clients and people to help
Wow.
release things that are ready to be released and put them in a safe space and release that energy, that tension, that anxiety, and then fill that space up with we fill it up with golden dragon fire, which is like liquid honey, like the sunlight from the sunset, and
If
fill
you
that
haven't
space
read
up.
his chapter, I'm saying again, go read it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. And and that there's other areas. So then there was an infinity loop, the Ouroboros dragon, which bites its own tail, which is a symbol, and the infinity loop. And the crazy thing about that is that I went off to university when I was 18, and I was wholly unequipped to go out into the world, but I did chemistry at university,
So did I.
and I didn't finish doing chemistry at university, but I did initial. So I know about the spin of electrons around a central atom, and I know
Yeah.
that they start off moving in a sphere, and then the
Hmm.
second point they move up in these infinity loops in 3 different directions, left and right, up and down, forwards and backwards. And so when I saw the dragons doing this, I was like, that connects to the movement of atoms. It's about energy. Everything
Wow.
is energy, obviously, but when molecules get to an excited state, the atoms within them move outwards. And we know as we expand our consciousness, we have times when we are in turbulence and times when we're in peace. And
Yeah.
so we hit these areas where there is peace within that turbulence. And so that symbolism in Pendragon Reiki we use to find those areas of peace and resonance, which is another thing. Obviously, it is something we talk about in the spiritual community very much. But resonance is one of the basics of physics.
Yeah.
So resonant frequencies, and if people are much more heart led now, so we talk about being resonance, and everyone says, "Oh, well, that really resonated with me," and they hold their heart. So there's some science behind that, because
Absolutely.
I really like to be able to talk about the science of what I'm talking about, because people, if you talk about dragons all the time out in the real world, and in the pub when you're having a game of pool with your friends and stuff, people just say you're bonkers. But if you talk about the science of things, they still think you're bonkers, but at least they think you're educated and bonkers. So it's quite nice.
Well, that's like me saying that spirit channels foods, and foods have a meaning. And I said, and I am a food scientist as well. And there's actually some science behind it's really the blending of spirit and science. So you're really speaking me to my heart. And I was about to turn around and show you my other tattoo, which is an infinity symbol or a lemniscate, as we'd
Mhm.
call it. So before we get into this meditation, because time is moving quickly and it's almost 1 o'clock where he is, does anybody have any questions? Hey, Brandon, does anybody have any questions for Kieran while he's here? This is a really wonderful opportunity to ask anything you might want to ask him about Pendragon Reiki, anything about dragons, anything that's on your mind. Please put your thoughts in the comments. And anyways, we'll just move on, and I'll hopefully, not everyone gets to speak to someone who really has firsthand account of what it's like to be around the beautiful dragons and their energies. What struck me the most, again in your chapter, um, was this aha moment for me was connecting the dragons to the nature's 5 elements, which is completely my platform, and seeing how food and the foods that we eat are all related to the elements, and bringing in Father Sky and Mother Earth, and the emotional well-being of water and the fire, and of course spirit, and then seeing how the dragons are connected to that too. I mean, all of it's connected. It just was like I was like, wow. I just thought I didn't even have words, like, I don't have now. But it does make you think a little bit more about, especially when you're bringing in these higher vibrational frequencies, that people really need to wake up to that consciousness of what they're putting in their body to keep and hold these containers that us beings are carrying. This is a big, like you said, some of us are getting big dharmic, um, uh, jobs to do. So,
Yeah, absolutely, and it's definitely a balance of those two. I'm a big video game geek as well, so I'm a big, strong, geeky guy. So we in video games, especially the role playing games and stuff I like to play, you have to level up and you have to get the right tools for the job. And lots of time that can be necklaces and crystals and swords and jackets and all those materials and things. but there also comes a point where you reach levels where things that sort of lower down can't affect you so much.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that you have the right tools, and the right tools are all aspects of ourselves. You know, to have the right food for our physical body, but the right nourishment for our souls. And it doesn't just have to be, in my experience, it doesn't just have to be becoming a vegan or a vegetarian, or only dressing in white or gold. You know, I believe wholeheartedly that sometimes you just need to listen to some Jimi Hendrix and and feed your soul in lots of ways. Because I think food-wise, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I think the guilt that people have when they eat food that they enjoy is the thing that really gives it negative energy and really draws down the vibration of it.
100% love it. And even if it's something that it's not like on the, oh, it's not on the glycemic level, but whatever it is, love it, embrace it, and integrate that harmonization in the body. And it will transmute beautifully versus judging it and being so mad at yourself you're doing it. That'll do more detriment. Yes, I do agree 1,000%.
Absolutely. Good. I'm a
Yeah.
big fan, and I should be sponsored by a UK product called Jaffa Cakes. I don't know if you've ever had a Jaffa Cake.
That sounds familiar. What are Jaffa cakes?
They're a little cake about this big. They're quite thin, little sponge layer. There's a little
Oh,
layer of Jaffa jelly, orange jelly, and then they're covered in chocolate on the top.
oh my God, right
And
in my alley.
they're really lovely. And when I finish spiritual work, I have a sort of energetic high, and I really want to. But you need to ground, so I eat
Yeah.
some of these now. I tend to eat a packet of Jaffa Cakes, and I will always celebrate and be happy with that because I love them and I think they're awesome. People say to me all the time, regularly, well, you shouldn't do that because there's too much chocolate, too much sugar, whatever. And I was like, no, you just have to
There's
love.
always too much of something, too
Yeah,
much of
yeah, yeah.
everything.
So I was like, no, but I am celebrating and I'm saying thank you to them for making me feel happy. And I'm not going to get dragged down into the, oh, this is my guilty secret. Oh, I shouldn't be eating this. Oh, I feel bad about doing that. No,
So much
I'm going to go.
judgment we're placing on ourselves from
Yeah.
outside programming. It just goes on and on.
And I think that's the thing that lowers the vibration, makes us feel guilty. And our body then, our brain sends those chemicals out into our body going, oh, we feel bad now. So we're being under attack. We are under attack. So we're going to hold on to the fat stores to protect ourselves. And we're doing that to ourselves.
Yeah,
We're fighting
we're
ourselves.
proving our own theory.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
true. Well, thank you for that. That was a great way to kind of, wrap up that whole discussion. Do you want to maybe just share before we get into this brief meditation, um, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and invite everyone to just find that beautiful, quiet space to enjoy this gift that Kieron's bringing to us? Maybe just share a little bit about what we get to be blessed with right now. I'm so grateful you're here.
sure. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to spend some time. It's grand. The trouble is, the time goes so quickly, doesn't it?
So
Um,
quickly.
yeah.
We'll have you
So,
on again.
well, that'd be awesome. I was fishing for that, but thank you for that. Yeah, it'd be great.
It's confirmed.
Um, I'm going to do a little guided meditation. I'm going to call the dragons in to help. Um, one to raise our vibration into a lovely safe space, and to call the energy of their breath, which is very soft and gentle energy. They have the dragon's fire. People know about transforming and changing. Dragon's breath is very soft and gentle. It's about changing reality around us. We're going to then connect with the silver violet dragon, who is connected with the violet flame, and we're going to raise some vibration, clear some energy around us, because collectively we have this density, this collective low vibration energy coming to the surface now. So we're going to raise that space and fill that space with some golden light. That is the plan. So if you're ready to go.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
Now, just as you've stopped, now I can't move my camera. It's not a dragon, but it's a lizard about this big just hopped across my computer. So, and now he's climbing up my peacock feathers. So I'm going to take that as a sign.
Let's take that as a sign. It's a great sign in my world. Dragons and as you say, the lizards and serpents and snakes, they're all synonymous. They hold some very similar energies. So it's lovely to have that that confirmation. Yeah. Awesome sauce. Okay, everyone. So take a few deeper breaths. Just close your eyes and relax. Let the chair beneath you take your full weight. If you have your own guardians and guides, call them into this space if you wish to. Your angels, protectors, elementals. If you're connected to your dragon familiar, consciously call them in. But know too that we are all connected to a dragon. We have a dragon guardian and guide. So even if you don't know them, just call to them and they will come close. They will spiral and swirl around you, dance and move with peace and grace. As you breathe more deeply, breathe all the way down into the bottom of your lungs, into the dantian, into your stomach, into the diaphragm. And as you breathe out, just let your muscles relax. Give yourself permission to be in this space. And we'll call to the Dragon Collective using the Pendragon's call. Call to the elemental dragons. They will dance and move around us. Dragons of earth, of sea and sky. Dragons of fire around us fly. Dragons of night and those of gold, come close and let your wings unfold. Dragons of love, those of change, be with us now and rearrange to dragons of change and those of love, as below them, so above. Dragons one and dragons all, come close and heed this dragon's call. As the dragons come close, as they spiral and dance, as they move and swirl, they each breathe their version of dragon's breath. For some it is leaves and plants and seeds, for others the scent of the sea, others still raindrops and rainbows, and the soft gentle breath and dance of a warm, soft glowing fire. These mists are Ratanan, the dragon's breath, and they softly and gently dissolve the world around us. The walls and ceiling and floor of the room fade, and the swirling clouds pervade all. You may feel the dance of dragon scales on your skin. The dragons may come forward and rest their brow against yours. This is their ancient greeting. They may send forward a fire and flame to your heart, draw it in, breathe it in, and send it back, for it is their way of welcoming you to their world. This dragon collective draw us up then, through these mists up high into the clouds. High above them to the space of eternal light where the sun shines, warm upon your skin, warm upon your soul, peaceful and calm. As you look downwards through the clouds, after a while, a short space opens up and you can see down to the earth. You can see down to a countryside, green, lush and verdant, emerald and beautiful, a tall hill with a high tower standing atop it. This is my childhood home. This is Leith Hill. This is the home of the silver violet dragon. the guardian of the silver violet light and flame. You can see her spiraling around the hill. She recognizes the love and light in your heart and soul and wakes, stretches her wings and rises into the sky. We can see all around us below the clouds the murk, the smog and fog, the sadness and fear of humanity at the moment. But as the silver violet dragon spirals and swirls around you, she cleanses that space with a soft, gentle breath. In her loving embrace, release those things ready to let go. Release that heaviness, that sadness and fear. Down south trethiad o gwmpas fi, la pwy chaduniath, gwmpas fi, la pwy fi gerach dan y flam. Drech fi o'n letarian, down south trethiad o gwmpas fi, la pwy chaduniath, gwmpas fi, la pwy fi gerach dan y flam. A soft, gentle breath, moving inside your energy system, swirling around the chakras, cleansing and clearing, soft and gentle, out into the auric field to your left and right, before you, behind you, above and below. Spiraling and swirling, dancing and moving. The silver violet light cleanses and clears. It raises you above this smog. And as the golden light of Father Sun dances upon the clouds, it fills those spaces, cleansed and cleared by the dragon. Breathe that energy into your heart. Let it expand up and down your central energy line into the chakras. Again out, left and right, before, behind, above and below, out into the auric field, the golden glow of divine light that originates in your heart, in your divine spark. The outer edges of this beautiful auric field harden a little, golden light reflecting and refracting negative energies and thoughts. You are protected and safe in this space for a while. The silver violet dragon gently unfurls herself from you. She dips down beneath the clouds and swiftly spreads out the silver violet light out into the world, out into Mother Earth, to cleanse and clear around the globe. Dancing and moving, she calls upon her brothers and sisters from the high hillsides, from the seas, from the rivers, from the earth, from the sky. A flight of dragons fill the sky, sending forward dragon fire and flame, cleansing and clearing this smog and sadness and fear, bringing love and light, gold and divine, around the earth once more. Dragons of earth and sea and sky, dragons of fire around us fly. Dragons of night and those of gold, come close and let your wings unfold. Dragons of love and those of change, be with us now and rearrange to dragons of change and those of love. As below then, so above. Dragons one and dragons all, come close and heed this dragon's call. As Father Sun starts to set and the golden light encompasses Mother Earth, cleansed and cleared for a while, the sun sets and we are drawn back down through the clouds, spiraling and swirling through Ratanan, down into the seat, into the room, back down into your bodies, soft and gentle. Your body and your soul come together, and the chair takes your full weight once more. As a last goodbye, Silver Violet Dragon comes and rests her brow against yours, the ancient dragon greeting and parting. She leaves an energetic imprint upon your brow of the dragon's eye, and then fades into the mists. The mists themselves fade, and the walls, ceiling, and floor around you return soft and gentle. And with this, you can breathe a little more deeply. Send some energetic roots down to the earth to ground yourself. Your fingers and toes are yours once more. Give thanks to your guardians and guides. Give thanks to the dragons. Grounded, protected, calm, and relaxed, without rushing, but as soon as you're able, open your eyes and return.
I'm unmuted. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow.
I hope that was all right.
It'll do. It's just such an honor to be a co-author and now friends with you. And you made a big difference for a lot of people tonight, and whoever reads your chapter, whoever watches the show from anywhere in the world, we thank you for being open, for being aware, awake, and allowing us to share this evening with you. Kieron, how can people learn more about you? I know you do lots of courses and classes, and you have a lot going on. So let's just share that with our group.
Sure, yeah. So I do classes in person. I live just outside Glastonbury now, so I do work in Glastonbury. I do lots of work online as well. I've recorded some things. I'm actually doing a series about elemental dragons at the moment, working through 7 different elemental dragons. So we can get those on my website, which is brotherofdragons.co.uk. I'm on Facebook as at Brother of Dragons, and Instagram as the Brother of Dragons. YouTube as well, Kieron Morgan, Brother of Dragons. There's quite a lot of Brother of Dragons in the thing, as you may have noticed. So yeah, you can get in touch with me there, and I've got lots of work again about dragons and the Violet Flame, and I do soul rescue work and ancient mysticism and magic and all kinds of stuff.
Beautiful. Thank you. And stay tuned, because I know that at some point you might see more collaborations between all of us authors doing different things. So more to come with Kieron Morgan. Thank you all for being here. Bless you. Bless you, Kieron. And everyone have a good evening and get some rest. I know it's late over there, and wherever you are watching this and listening, and much love and light. Take care.
See you.